Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning, happy Christmas Eve, and welcome to All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. In 2 weeks, Governor Eric Holcomb will begin his final legislative session as the governor. This is not a budget session, but he says we can expect a flurry of activity. Our government reporter Garrett Bergquist sat down with him in his office at the State House.
And with us now is Governor Eric Holcomb. Governor, thanks for letting us come in today.
'Tis the season. Good to see you and to be with you.
So how does it feel going into your final session? Does it feel strange?
Sentimental in some respects, but this is a action-oriented job, so there's a lot to do on that to-do list, and that keeps us focused, and that's a good thing. But for sure, you know, when you kind of sit back and think, I'm writing my last State of the State address, or this is the second to the last scouting luncheon speech, or this will be the last time I go to fill in the blank, it becomes extra special, I guess you could say.
What can you tell us about your agenda for 2024?
Well, I can share some details in general. One, it will be about landing and launching. There's a number of projects that we have the resources and the tools to do and complete and build, but there's an awful lot of new to do, and I don't want anyone thinking this is going to be about a year of ribbon cuttings. This is a year of taking our state to the next level on three key fronts: one, economic development; two, workforce development; and three, community development. And so landing certain projects for sure, launching new ideas, thinking about the future of certain sectors, mobility, life sciences, defense, you fill in the blank there as well. We're going to be leaning into that, hyperactive. And then I think we'll spend a lot of time making sure Hoosiers, citizens, taxpayers are aware of all the different programs and resources available to them. I get around the state quite often, and I come across certain walks who don't realize all that's there already, and maybe that others a county over are taking advantage of because it's there for them. And so I want to make sure folks don't just have access to what's available, but they have awareness before they choose to access them.
House and Senate Republicans have said that they want to tackle reading proficiency and chronic absenteeism during the 2024 session. What solutions would you like to see from them on those issues?
Well, I can say this right now in December, that January 8th we'll roll out our agenda, both our legislative asks and our administration and administrative positions that we'll take as well that won't require legislative action. And it will include making sure our third graders are on a path to reading proficiency. I think it's wrong to promote the problem and to say, well, we'll catch up later. That may be the case for some, but it can't be for the volume that we're seeing right now. And certainly absenteeism contributes, but it's not the sole cause of our low reading scores. And when I think about where we are with the math scores, 4th grade and 8th grade, much better. And so I am encouraged that with the commitment that the state made in this past session and some tweaks that we'll make in this upcoming session, that we are on a pathway to progress, improvement, simply by teaching the science of reading, taking that approach, where I learned through phonics, et cetera, I think will improve our scores, making sure our teachers are taught the science of reading when they're going through their schooling before their commitment to those students is in real life.
This summer, CNBC ranked Indiana as the 7th worst state in which to live, and they particularly cited a lack of access to child care. Should lawmakers in this session expand funding or eligibility for early child care, or for that matter, pre-K?
Well, we just took some big steps in terms of providing child care to working families, means tested. Our FSSA, that whole administration and agency, has programs for providers, for families that meet those requirements, those financial requirements, to receive assistance to get their kiddos into a learning environment, also known as child care. But this is a place to really hone skills, high quality learning environments. In addition, we just this year, during the budget session, and we're rolling this out right now, are providing another program that organizes the corporate community to provide child care, and the state is putting in more dollars into those scenarios as well, so that if you're in Warsaw or Vincennes or Jeffersonville, no matter what size the city or town, our business community, who knows the need as much as anyone, are faced with how do we get more workers into the workforce, even though we're higher than the national labor participation rate, even though we have a all-time high peak performance in terms of our private sector workforce right now, very historically low unemployment. Every willing and able body counts. And so we have to make sure we aren't just providing child care for those businesses, but that we're also skilling up and reducing our recidivism rate, that we're becoming healthier as a citizenry, so that we can get to work. This is not a one program solves the whole problem, but child care is something the state continues to lean into and put dollars.
All right, coming up, Holcomb addresses the controversy surrounding a planned high-tech research park in Boone County. All right, welcome back. Controversy has grown all year over the LEAP district. That's a planned high-tech research park in Boone County. It was a signature project for Governor Eric Holcomb. Our interview continues now with a discussion about the questions surrounding that project.
I want to turn to the LEAP district for a few minutes. Are you surprised by the extent of the opposition to that project?
No, because it's on a scale unlike we've seen before. And with that comes the good and the challenging. And that should be understood. I certainly do. There's growing pains that go along with unprecedented new ways of thinking and doing. And for a state like Indiana, who just celebrated our end of the year report from the IEDC in terms of new capital investment coming into the state, $28.7 billion, broke the $22.2 billion record last year, which broke the year before's record of 8.7. So we have serious positive momentum going. We're in a different league. We're punching way above our weight class. We're starting to get deals that would have gone to Arizona or Texas. We're developing on new frontiers, hydrogen, biotech, microelectronics. The new future of mobility is being ushered in right here in Indiana. That requires having sites that are conducive to those type of investments. And so while we have hundreds of ready sites in counties all over the state of Indiana, we need to have even bigger sites available. And that's what this LEAP district is. Now, having said that, the IEDC is wired or built to be aggressive, built to compete with fierce competition all over the world, certainly around our country, where billions are going to be determined to be allocated in the next 18, 24 months. So it's carpe diem. It is seize the day now and be ready before someone even, they're looking at your neighborhood to invest in. We know because of our tax and regulatory environment, we're very attractive. Now we need to have the sites and the workforce to go with it. And that's what this site is. The IFA, Indiana Finance Authority, will conduct the water study, and nothing will be done, just like in every other county or region, before we know where the sources of water is and the volume that will be needed projected out 50 years. And so there's a protocol to all of this. It's a regulated utility, so no one needs to fear waking up tomorrow and water, unbeknownst to them, as one drip or drop, is being diverted somewhere else. There will be a process in the LEAP district, just as there is in every other quadrant of our state.
Should local officials or local landowners, though, have been involved at an earlier stage or at a deeper level on this project?
Well, local landowners in LEAP, this is about property rights at a most basic level, and this wasn't eminent domain. This wasn't an action the state took that said we're taking property for the betterment of the whole state. This is landowners making a decision, like they do every day in every county of our state, with the state as a partner that's working on a different development project than maybe they were obviously prior. The same will be true going forward. We'll continue to work with landowners and the community's leadership, whether it be chambers of commerce or mayors or county commissioners, to make sure that we're, for sure, going forward, operating on the same page, and we've communicated that.
Going back to the water issue for just a second, a lot of landowners in that area are worried about this affecting their well water. We've already had a couple stories about people whose well water has declined in quality as a result of all this. What precautions are being taken to prevent something like that?
Well, we'll continue to, poke straws in potential water sources to see how much water is there for them and their neighbors. And I always say I pick up some national newspapers, publications, and look about the fight going on with water out west, 7 different states, Mexico, and how the Colorado River affects a whole different country because of the watershed. And so we have water, we have Lake Michigan, we have the Ohio River, we have aquifers, wells, et cetera. And I think we have an abundance of water. What we need to do, what the IFA needs to do going forward, and what we have done in the past, is cite those sources. And that will take working with these landowners for the foreseeable future, not just in that area, which we know going back years from a prior report that says this region will require more water. And this is a regulated utility. And so it will be operated as such.
All right, coming up, Indiana's best political team takes on an unprecedented ruling against former President Donald Trump. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in 2 members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Kip Tu and Republican Whitley Yates. Good to see you again, both. Let's begin with the interview that we just heard from with the governor. Kip, we'll start with you. How does this agenda compare to previous final year agendas from governors?
Oh, I think it's probably pretty similar. The interesting thing to me is he's not bringing in his lieutenant governor. He's not highlighting her. He's not promoting her to succeed him. All things that most previous 2-term governors have tried to do throughout the history. I know when Governor Evan Bayh was the governor, he promoted Frank O'Bannon as lieutenant governor, picked him to be the lieutenant governor because he thought he could be the governor. It seems to me that if you're going to be engaged in this and you pick someone to be your lieutenant governor, they ought to be your pick for governor when you retire. I'm not seeing that happen.
That is very interesting. Whitley Holcomb is term limited, as you know, so how much political weight does he carry in this final session of his term?
You know, I think Governor Holcomb is focused on running through the tape. He's going to finish out what his administration set out to do and continue delivering for Hoosiers. Now, when it comes to his pick for LG and who will be the successor, I think he's doing what he should be doing, which is leaving it up to the voters. It's not for him to throw his weight around and decide who the next governor should be. Each candidate should lead with their ideas. Whether that's the lieutenant governor who's currently running or Brad Chambers, his former secretary of IBEC. He has lots of friends on the ballot as well. And so I think him staying out is the smartest move for us Hoosiers so we can look at the ideas and choose from there.
Okay, I want to turn to the Colorado Supreme Court's ruling that Donald Trump is ineligible to run in that state's primary. We talked about it earlier in the week, but Whitley, given the makeup of the U.S. Supreme Court, because it looks like it is going to go there, how likely is it to get overturned?
I mean, I think it's pretty surely going to get overturned. I don't think that this is going to be something that creates a new precedent, although it kind of already has, at least within the state of Colorado. I think the Supreme Court is going to overrule it like all of the other states before them that had the option to go ahead and make this ruling.
Kip, you know that Donald Trump currently does not face any charges related to the attack on the Capitol. So does that kind of undercut the argument that he violated the 14th Amendment? Expand upon what you talked about earlier in the week.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's accurate. We don't all know what Jack Smith is going to ultimately charge, but I guess currently is the right phrase.
Right.
Look, the Constitution, the amendment, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution is pretty clear. If you engage in an insurrection, you're ineligible to be president of the United States once you had already taken the oath. It clearly applies to Donald Trump. He's continuing to engage in an insurrection today. He still says that the election was stolen from him. He is trying to undermine our electoral process. He doesn't respect the Constitution. He doesn't respect our laws. He tried to overthrow it. I know people say that he, all he did was give a speech, but he was behind the planning for that day. His two top lieutenants were engaged in it. And so he was engaged in it. And I think there was a 5-day trial where Trump's attorneys were allowed to make their arguments why he wasn't, and they didn't win ultimately in the Colorado Supreme Court. So we're going to have the Supreme Court of the United States take it up, and it'll be very interesting if they follow the law or they follow politics. If they follow politics, he'll stay on the ballot. If they follow the law, he'll be gone.
Whitley, you're smiling.
You know, I think it's interesting. Were they following politics in Colorado when they removed him from the ballot is a question that you have to ask yourself when every single Supreme Court justice in Colorado was a Democrat pick. The real question that I kind of have, and the precedent that's being set in Colorado, if you are able to remove a presidential candidate from the ballot, should Joe Biden be removed from the ballot for allowing the insurrection that's happening at the borders, that's pouring into all of our cities, that's creating health hazards as well as other issues, specifically dealing with crime, fentanyl, etc. Is that something that can be looked at as well? Because his policies have been pervasive to create that. I mean, if we're going to be setting precedent, if this is how we're looking at the law and removing presidential candidates off the ballot, that's something that I think would be interesting for someone to look into.
Kip?
That's absurd. I mean, you don't even understand what the word insurrection means for you to make that argument. It's just absurd. Donald Trump told people to go to the Capitol and stop the proceedings to the next president of the United States. And his vice president refused to do it, who is also the former governor of the state of Indiana. He incited an insurrection.
That wasn't in the speech. I mean,
Go ahead, Kip.
Yeah, it was in the speech. He said, we're going to the Capitol. And he said the day before, it's going to be wild on January 6th. It's going to be wild. What was he talking about?
Don't ad-lib. Don't ad-lib. That wasn't in the speech.
All right. You know what? We're going to leave it there. Happy holidays to you both, and I'm sure we'll have future discussions about this as the year goes on, and we look forward to a good new year. Good to see you both. Have a happy holiday. We'll talk to you soon.
Happy holidays to all your listeners.
Yes. We'll be right back. And thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30 for a look back at the year in politics and a look ahead to 2024. There will be lots to talk about. And if you'd like to hear our full interview with Governor Eric Holcomb, check out the All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network over at wishtv.com.